So when you go through a breakup, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to tell you to just move on. It sounds easy, right? It sounds like it makes sense. But what if moving on is actually holding you back from true healing? So this may be a controversial idea, but it could be one that could completely change your recovery journey and help to rebuild the connection back with your ex-partner. So in this video, I'm going to challenge some of the conventional relationship wisdom out there about healing from breakups. And I'm going to show you why focusing on moving on can be really detrimental to your progress and your growth. And I'm going to introduce you to a powerful alternative that's going to build genuine resilience and prepares you for healthier future relationships. So, in modern days, there's a lot of relationship and dating coaches out there that are going to tell you to, simply move on and find someone who values you and who is worthy of the object that is you, right? They tell you how to find someone who respects you, who loves you, and who wants you to be you. And this may be all well and good. I get the reasoning behind this. Ultimately, when you've gone through a breakup, moving on quickly can feel really good. It can feel really good in the moment to get some validation, to start finding people who are going to pay attention to you because maybe your ex has rejected to you. So it can give you a quick, dopamine hit in the moment. But moving on can actually be a real problem. We've all heard this common advice after a breakup, just move on, get over it, get over them. Time heals all wounds. Some people hear the best way to get over someone is to get under someone else. And then this one for the women. But these platitudes, they sound comforting, but oftentimes they're really counterproductive in the long term, especially. These beliefs can sabotage your recovery. And the reason why is that these sort of surface level Band-Aid platitudes can really sabotage your recovery and your growth. If you just come from a relationship and you're trying to still maybe heal that relationship or simply grow yourself, constantly trying to move on, you're resisting your natural emotional processes. And this creates a paradox of control in your emotional healing. The more you try to force yourself to feel better, the more you try to jump into a different relationship without actually acknowledging and dealing with the healing and the lessons to be learned from your previous relationship, to try to get over your ex, the worse that you often feel. There's so much research to back this up. There's a lot of studies that show that emotional resistance, the reluctance to experience these negative emotions and process them properly, this significantly impedes your healing. So when you do jump into a new relationship, you often end up in exactly the same pattern. You have a great 6 months, 8 months with this new person, and then because you haven't healed, because you haven't processed, and you haven't learned the right relationship skills, you end up falling into the exact same pattern as before. And then you start to blame your new partner for this, and the whole cycle starts over again. Because when you resist feelings of sadness, of anger, of grief, you get stuck in a cycle of emotional turmoil. It becomes like an inner negative feedback loop going over and over again. And have you ever heard of Mark Manson? He talks about something called the backwards law, which suggests that pursuing happiness directly can lead to greater dissatisfaction in chasing this quick and easy dopamine hit of getting some validation, some approval, and moving on to somebody else. You actually end up feeling worse off. Whereas counterintuitively, accepting that you feel negative right now can actually foster genuine healing. So it's important to start redefining healing. It's not about achieving a fixed state of happiness or getting over your ex. True healing is about building resilience. It's about developing the ability to experience and process all of your emotions, even the painful ones, without being overwhelmed by them. So I'm going to talk about more practical steps to embrace this approach and start building real emotional strength without having to move on from your partner. And it's crucial to understand this because learning how to process your emotions without moving on can actually kickstart the reconciliation process for you and your ex-partner. And before I move on to this, if you do want more videos like this on repairing, building, and growing healthy relationships, then feel free to subscribe to my channel for new videos every single week. Building emotional resilience is crucial in breakup recovery, in repairing your inner self and your relationship. The more that you build a skill, the more that you actually start to see the path forward for both you and your ex-partner. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand and manage your feelings effectively, especially during tumultuous times such as a breakup or separation. Understanding that your emotions aren't something to fear. They're not something to placate by simply moving on to somebody else, but a path to growth. There's a lot of society pressures us, especially men, to maintain constant positivity. There's this idea that men should always be strong, ignore their emotions, and always be happy to get through anything. This myth ends up causing more harm than good. When you accept your emotions, instead of fighting them, you end up creating a space for growth and self-discovery. And you can start with this with mindfulness. There's a lot of mindfulness techniques out there. And these are really powerful tools for building emotional awareness by being present with your thoughts and your feelings without judgment, without, if you feel upset with your ex-partner, rather than saying, I shouldn't feel upset with my ex, or I should be angry with my ex, you're learning to just accept it and say, this is what I feel in this moment. This may not last forever, but this is what I feel in the moment. By doing this, you're learning to navigate the complexities of your emotional landscape. And this practice, developing mindfulness, reduces your anxiety and it enhances your emotional self-control. Another strategy can be practicing gratitude. Now, this sounds very airy-fairy, but learning to do this actually helps you to improve your mental health overall. Because oftentimes you're going through a tough time in the relationship, you're feeling angry or you're feeling sad, you're feeling lonely. Your mind can focus only on what we see as negative parts, the things that are missing from your life, when actually you have quite a lot to be thankful for. So learning these things, helping you to focus on positive aspects of your life, even amid a tough time in the relationship. And this shift in perspective creates more of a balanced state overall. You can learn to feel sad whilst also being able to acknowledge and appreciate the good things around you at the same time. It's really crucial to know that welcoming uncomfortable feelings is the key to healing. And as you go along, if you're trying to repair the relationship with your ex-partner, learning how to do this will start to make bigger changes and have a bigger impact on the way that your partner sees you than anything that you can say. So when you start to communicate and talk with your ex-partner, if you're trying to repair it, it will help you to get out of this needy state or this angry state or this blaming state, because you're learning to manage and acknowledge your feelings without any sort of judgment. And this approach ends up fostering a much more friendly attitude towards painful emotions, and it allows for deeper emotional processing and acceptance. If you think about it this way, the more that you learn how your emotions develop, the more you can understand why your partner may be angry with you, why your partner may be sad, why your partner may feel hopeless. As you build this emotional intelligence, it becomes easier to be able to connect with your partner and understand them. And that counterintuitively ends up building more of a connection. The more you show your partner you understand how they're feeling, the more of a connection you build, the more that you show that you've changed and you are ready for developing version 2.0 of the relationship. So ironically, healing yourself doesn't necessarily mean about moving on. Healing yourself can be focusing inwards. And as a result of not moving on, not ignoring your emotions and just simply looking for some quick validation during a breakup, actually can end up helping to heal and repair the relationship. Like I said earlier, this is about building internal strength that will serve you in all areas of your life. And the key to building internal strength is learning internal validation. This is the key to unlocking true healing during a breakup. So this is about deriving your sense of worth from within rather than seeking approval from other people. Seeking validation from other people, from your ex-partner or from a new partner, is ultimately going to end in disaster. Because learning to self-validate and learning to understand your own emotions and having this shift creates an infinite resource of stability and self-worth that doesn't depend on external factors. And as a result of this, as you build your self-internal validation, it means that you become less reliant on other people, which means that you approach relationships differently. You don't need all of this validation and hand-holding and your partner saying that they love you. You are able to generate that yourself, which becomes very attractive. Someone who isn't needy, who doesn't need very much from a partner, ironically becomes a lot more attractive because you're less work to be in a relationship with. And that sounds tough, but this is the truth behind it. If you think about it, seeking external validation post-breakup or during a breakup is really dangerous because it stops you from learning how to self-validate, and it leads to feelings of inadequacy and unhealthy dependency on other people. If you start moving into new relationships really quickly, you're reinforcing this idea that you can't be single for a little while. You start to become dependent on getting validation on yourself from other people, right? So to develop internal strength, start by practicing self-acceptance. Treat yourself with kindness during these difficult times. One of the most powerful ways to do this is take a look at the relationship that you've just come from or, is on the rocks right now, and accepting all of the tools that you used that were ineffective, but approaching it from a sense of understanding yourself and having compassion for yourself, knowing that, yes, I use these ineffective tools. I was unable to regulate my emotions, or I was very needy, or I communicated really badly, but approaching it with compassion to yourself, saying, yes, I could do better, but I did the best with the tools that I had. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to learn how to develop better tools moving forward. Having this sort of 3-step process encourages you to accept your imperfections and builds resilience. It turns these negatives into positives. And then it becomes not about ignoring your flaws, but embracing them as part of your identity and your journey moving forward. And there's a lot of research behind this, shows this powerful link between self-esteem and relationship health. People who actively work on their self-esteem during breakups report much better improvements in their emotional well-being and their relationship readiness, right? Their skills and abilities to be able to navigate a relationship, because they engage in self-reflection, practice gratitude and empathy towards themselves and their partner, whilst also building their growth. Working with a lot of the members that I found is that they've been part of, other programs, or they've done some self-help kind of stuff, this like 30-day, 45-day X-Back program or whatever it is, and they don't promote healthy healing. They promote these very big extremes of get your ex back in 30 days or jump into a new relationship instantly. And ultimately, some of these members have come to me after being in multiple programs and they're just like, this hasn't worked. I've been in the same loop over and over again for a whole year. Going through this journey needs to be an ongoing process, and it's going to be difficult at times. And this is why I work with my clients long-term, not in some, couple of weeks program. I work with them long term in order to develop these skills. And as a result of this, the relationship that they've been trying to repair for a long time naturally comes together because they've learned the right tools, the right skills, and the right steps in order to heal themselves properly so that they can walk into a relationship head held high with the self-esteem that they need to and lead the relationship to the right place in a very strong way. So this is really crucial. And if you do want to start your journey, join me on my relationship bootcamp, where you'll learn the same steps and tools that all of my members start using to start turning their relationships around today. Just click on the link in the description to grab your spot. Healing yourself during a tough time in the relationship or during a breakup doesn't mean that it has to be so extreme that you just jump into a new relationship. In fact, this can actually hold you back quite a lot. And this is why, when people talk about the no contact rule, this idea of checking out of a relationship completely in order to heal actually becomes quite problematic, because you develop this avoidant behavior of having to step outside away from difficult situations. And that doesn't build your resilience. It actually teaches you that every time there's an emotional struggle, you need to just step outside and completely step away from it. It's all about finding that balance, not erasing your past or pretending it didn't happen, but using that experience to build a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. And as you're trying to repair the relationship, your partner will see this. Your partner will feel this from you. This isn't going to be some, week, 2 week, 3 week journey. This is going to be an ongoing process. But if you're in communication with your partner and you're talking and you're transparent about your struggles whilst also still having an action plan to move forward and to grow during it, your partner's going to feel that, because they're going to see you're not just moving on really quickly. And they're also going to see that you're not just randomly trying to repair the relationship with them. So they're not going to feel pressure that they have to be in this relationship with you right now. And as a result, they'll be able to walk alongside you on their healing journey as well. Ultimately, if you think about relationships, building the foundation of just a relationship, first of all, treating them as a human being rather than we're either in a romantic relationship or we're out of a romantic relationship. This is going to treat them just like a human being at a base level, and walking alongside them as you're both on your healing journey is going to build that connection as a natural emergence of this whole process. So you don't have to move on. You also don't have to constantly pursue your ex-partner. This is the stuff that I love. So this is why I talk about it so much. But learning the right skills is really crucial for building true relationships. This is a life skill. This is something that expands outside of romantic relationships. Relationships are people. And if you learn the right relationship skills, then learning and understanding people becomes a lot easier. Life in general becomes a lot easier. We're not living in isolation, right? So I've got a deeper dive video, which I'll link to on the screen. But ultimately, there are essential relationship skills to learn that are simple, but they may not be easy. But it's crucial to know them. And the more that you know them, the deeper you learn them, the better your relationships will be in every aspect of your life, especially romantic relationships. So I'm going to leave you with that deep dive video, and I will see you over there.